Oh my gosh, it is so nice to see you again. It is so nice to breathe in your wonderful pheromones. The garden that you are cultivating in your soul is certainly spreading out some pleasant aromas. You are tapping in to the root of the symmetry. This is our podcast, Synchronicity, where we know that nothing is a coincidence, and thus everything is intentional. How do you feel about that? Let's talk about it. And specifically, what we're talking about today is how does Hermes Trismegistus turn home into heaven? Because I am in a process as Hermes playing the role of Chase Clarence Calloway, where I, having just graduated college, and then I got a job after college, but naturally, as the wave was supposed to happen with the world, lost a job because of the pandemic, and now I'm supposed to create all of my own stuff, because that's the point. Like, I came in, I went to school, I did everything, and I literally, right, like in 2019, right before the whole world got shut down and everyone got scared to breathe air and interact and life was never the same, I at the very least got to travel to Senegal and to Florida and down to Brazil. So woo, at least that happened. At least, man, I really worked it out. Saw Avengers Endgame at the end of my college career, and reflecting back on it, it's all just one big synchronicity, my guy. Trust. So, right now, I am in the process of turning home into heaven. And I don't even fully know exactly what that means yet. So, that's why we are about to explore this question. This is a question that my spirit set up for me. That's the point of this podcast. Like, this is about, or I guess even more so, things that, I guess it's both ways. Like, these questions are more so like, they're from spirit, but they are consciously channeled as far as, okay, this is what I want to consciously address. Like, this is the conscious foundation for everything that's going to naturally flow out of my space, right? So anytime I have a title or a sequence of words for the podcast that's naturally earth, that I'm like, okay, let's practicalize the way that this is going to go. So now I can flow in a way that is channeled properly, channeled in a way that communicates productively. So this question, just any question, but specifically this is a conscious structuring of now me getting to expound upon what does it really mean to turn home into heaven, right? Because then we have to define home versus heaven, look into the numbers and all of that, right? Just cool alchemy things. So let me get a little simmer and I will see you on the other side. Crying, I simmer my trees, breathe in my leaves, balance my chi, triple my C. My mind's been flying wild, my soul's been crying. I simmer my trees, breathe in my leaves, balance my chi, triple my C. My soul's been crying wild, my mind's been flying so high. Through the astral plane, macabre brain, I built your game, we're not the same. My soul's been crying while my mind's been flying. To relay a word, those who listen heard, we make our vibe from deep inside. My soul's been crying while my mind's been flying back into my space, called away with haste, so I'll fall with grace to thrill my chase. My mind's been flying while my soul's been crying too. Water my earth, I know my worth, My soul gives birth to all my work. My mind's been flying wild. My soul's been crying, so I can't connect with those you neglect. Time to correct how we reflect. My mind's been flying wild. My soul's been crying too. Who flood the sea with energy from my energy? I'm free to be me. I felt to inspire you to say how to fly higher too. Fly higher too. Fly higher too. Hang out with the fam at your true spot. Don't be sad if you forgot that you've got a spirit's run and you're not true to this spot. Flip a script and break the facade. Take a trip and go abroad. When you're brave, they will apply. When you get in touch with your true God. I've been fighting. I've been vibing when I'm dancing with demons, reversing curses, they scheming. They be fiending for reasons to change the sins like the seasons. So I've been falling, cause y'all been calling my mind out of my spirit. I feel it best when I'm near it, but y'all cry for help and I hear it. So Hermes flies out to stare it in a new healthy direction. Will grow through natural connection. So I simmer my trees, breathe in my leaves, balance my chi, triple my C to level up like it's nothing, to turn into something, to bust into function, bumping and pumping with all the wisdom I'm gushing. And when I simmer my trees, breathe in my leaves, balance my chi, triple my C, I felt to inspire you. Simmer higher. I simmer in the skies, I triple in my chi, then I open up my eyes. Symmetry. I balance in my seasons. I mama the cohesion that keeps us intertwined. Symmetry. Balance in my seasons, and I don't need a reason to fulfill my desires. Symmetries. Woo! How does Hermes turn home into heaven? Well, he simmers his trees. That is for sure. He definitely smokes. Definitely breathe in. Get high on your own supply. That's symmetry. That's the whole point. Getting high on your own supply. So that's what it means to turn home into heaven. First and foremost. To get high on your own supply. When you are focused on getting high or feeling good from other spaces, right? You're not really at home. Like, the point of you being in a home is that you have everything that you need there, right? So wherever your home is, that is basically the physical expression of your spirit. So wherever you are, wherever you literally feel at home, so you think of like your home is your heart, that's where you need nothing, because you have everything, right? So we all have our own internal home. Okay, that's the point of you being in heaven. Heaven being the number 10 is the fact that your spirit is always in heaven when it is connected with its own imagination, and it's using its space to support its imagination. So when you're at home in yourself, that is literally you as your imagination being supported by your space, right? This is why it's important to have a home in general. It is a space that supports your imagination, your ability to express your imagination, which is your ego. So this is what heaven esoterically means as 10. So when we're talking about turning home into heaven, we've already seen in Dissected Dialect that home is 8. So 8 is your soul. So the difference between 8 and 10 is the difference between your soul and your heaven. So when you're at home with yourself, when you're at home in general, that means that you have your 8. So your 8 is your feeling. So when you're home, you are in your own feeling. And that feeling, that vibration itself is a space. So the difference between home and heaven is that home is the natural feeling of you connecting with yourself, whereas heaven is the ideal imagination of your ego connecting with spirit, right? So this is why right now you're at home, yet you imagine heaven. And it is all of us imagining heaven together that really drives the universe. This is why fire as an element is the future, because we are all creating the future right now from our imagination, from all of our desires, from all of our own projections, from all of our own passions. It takes us envisioning an idea that no one else can see and then connecting with it to manifest it into this world. So it's literally like that process, right? Here we are. That's literal, physical, practical alchemy of how you can see that your fire, your passion is creating your future, and the future is constantly happening right now. So just the fact that you're aware of your circumstances right now means that you as a spirit have created them, right? So this is where, again, like, people, they hear me on my Hermeticism stuff through all dimensions. All right, this is way bigger than this lifetime. All like this, because as spirits, no matter how lost we are in any kind of light, the point of me being Hermes when I touch down is to show us that we all just feel like connecting, and we all are using light to express how we feel like connecting. And then that develops consciousness, and we start to develop intelligence, and we start to develop infinite ways in which we can connect, because our space is infinite. All right, so you as a spirit are infinitely just spaced out. Like, you're boundless. The whole point of you even imagining something is that you're anchoring your space into a light, and that light is then going to be the expression of how you feel about your circumstances. So this is why 0 is not the spirit, but it does represent the spirit, because your spirit is space. Your spirit is not its circumstances, but the moment your spirit feels like expressing itself, it can only do so from its own circumstances, and it's always going to have to go back to its own circumstances. So when you as a spirit are at home, that's you having your own 8, your own vibration. So you can see what makes you happy, and also what you hate, right? So this is why home isn't perfect by definition. Yeah. Like, by definition, like, the point of home is that it is your 8. It's your soul. It's your vibration. So when you're at home with yourself, you're not at heaven with yourself. The point of home is to teach you how to create heaven. And what's going to naturally happen is that the moment you get to that heaven, it's just going to be a new home. This is how we expand the universe. How cool. I love doing these podcasts. Yeah, it makes so much sense. Thanks, Irisel, Spirit. These podcasts would be really fun when I'm doing psychedelics. Like, I am fasting right now. I'm fasting again, like, most of the time. But especially this past month, I've just been going hard. So life is very naturally psychedelic. When you fast, your body releases DMT. DMT is the ultimate psychedelic that allows your spirit to communicate with you viscerally and physically. Like, because when you see physical reality, it's just light. So DMT is the spirit molecule, as Google will call it, or wherever the internet likes to call it, the spirit molecule that allows your spirit to literally communicate with you directly, and allows you to be more intelligent in your communications as a spirit as well. So like having high levels of DMT are what allow me to separate my mind from my body, and my body then can relax as I pilot my mind as a spirit and navigate completely other realms. And then I'm able to communicate with completely different spirits based on just everything, because it's all communication. That's the point. This is who I am. So, and this is what we're all doing. Like, I'm here to show you that you do this all the time. We're always doing this. Like, your mind has to make your body so that it can anchor itself to something, so that it can then make its communications more practical. It is only the Judeo-Christian white supremacist system that would have you believing the opposite. That would have you believing that you are actually the body creating a mind. Okay? Because this is how the Jews then get everyone lost in supporting the genocide of indigenous peoples. Literally. And they've been really good at it for a very long time. It's very horrifying the way that they can manipulate everyone's emotions to support the genocide of indigenous peoples and support climate change. And it's all just because they don't want to be alone with themselves. So that's why they're going to teach you that you can't create heaven. You need to go to their heaven. And the only way you can go to their heaven is to follow their rules. And they're using these rules to steal your life. Gross. So, when we think about heaven, right? Heaven, it's your ideal imagination. Like, that's the point of the interchangeability between home and heaven. The moment you get into a heaven and get into a perfect situation, it will quickly become home, and you're going to start hating it. So this is the wisdom of home and heaven. When you're at home, you're comfortable, right? Like, the point of home is that you're allowed to be comfortable, you're allowed to chill, you can vibe at home. Your home is your vibration. Yet your home, as we know with the vibration, is always changing, right? Your home is never the same. You don't just have a home and you're like, all right, this is good. I'm good here. No, like, clearly spirits are constantly striving for heaven, right? So we are constantly striving to turn our home into a heaven. The moment we turn home into heaven, it just becomes a home, and then we want to make a new heaven. So this is how we just learn about ourselves through lifetimes, on lifetimes, on lifetimes, on lifetimes. It's about you as a spirit, knowing that you are always home inside of yourself, and thus you are always changing the way your home looks to match your idea of what heaven would be. This is deep, guys. Yo, like, when you tap into the root of the symmetry, oh snap, like it's just so insane that I went through all of these years of garbage school, being forced to destabilize my spine, being forced to sit all day every day and eat sugar with a food pyramid that has grains as the base. Disgusting. Just being forced to poison myself and sit down and shut up. Literally, this is a little tidbit about a trip that I took. So I did DMT, and I mean I've done it a lot, blah, blah. But DMT, right? As I've already talked about, your body's supposed to produce it, so it allows you to get in contact with spirit, and spirits can just communicate to you with way clearer lights the more DMT that you have in your body. It's basically like, I'm making it as simple as possible. So the world out here, right? DMT is a Schedule 1 substance, a Schedule 1 controlled substance by the government, because the Judeo-Christian colonizers came over, saw that we as indigenous peoples use it to communicate with the astral realm, and they immediately want to make money off of that. And their version of making money off of that is to tell all of us that we can't use nature to communicate with ourselves because they want to rape and enslave us. And that is what love is going to be. So that's why they're going to get to force this English language on us. And now I'm here having to channel my infinite individuality into this very limited garbage shit. But hey, again, I'm an alchemist. I'm turning this into gold. We are here. It is lit. All right. We as spirits are always awesome. No matter how much someone tries to tell us that we're not creative, we know that that is just a reflection of how uncreative that person is, and they desire to consume our time by just making us connect with that. So this is the point of us learning about our individuality, okay? You as a spirit, you have to know that you are an individual. And this is heaven. Here we go. That's like really the wisdom of heaven. So when you think about home versus heaven, right? Being at home. Right now, I'm at home. But at home, I'm in 8. So the number 8 is the subconscious. It's in the universe. So your home is your subconscious, and thus your home is an expression of your subconscious, right? So that's why your home is, always changing, because your subconscious, your waters are always changing. You desire to stabilize the way they change, so that's why you clean your home, right? You don't have trash laying around everywhere unless you do. And then that's just where everyone has different homes, right? Everyone has a different internal realm. And thus that's always going to manifest externally in different ways as well. Yeah, just because that's what nature is, right? Like that's how we create life. This is how we make anything matter. Like, how are you living a life right now if you don't have your own internal idea of home and you didn't want to connect that with all of us? So the universe is one big home for all of us. It is one HOME, one homie. All right, we all have one friend, and that friend is the universe. And anyone who supports our friendship with the universe is also a friend. See, like, honestly, that's why I'm simultaneously, like, I'm so chaotic. I just have it on lock so well, okay? Best believe I'm chaotic as fuck. It's just super on lock, and it's better on lock all the time. As a Taurus sun, it only gets channeled into very grounded, awesome simulations that other chaotic spirits can learn about themselves from, and then we all have wisdom. That's what Hermeticism, that's what Cynicism is, that's who I am as Tahuti Hermes Trismegistus. So believe that as a Virgo moon and Gemini ascendant, I am chaotic in terms of me seeing everything, me feeling everything, and then me wanting to communicate about everything, and not properly figuring out the boundaries in which certain communications are not appropriate for other people's feelings. And this is where I've had to really learn the importance of letting spirits be comfortable in lies, and then just navigating and letting my actions speak louder than my words. Like, this is the biggest problem that I think I've had as a Gemini Virgo, as Hermes. The most toxic form of Hermes, when I'm at my most toxic self, it is when I'm letting my words speak instead of my actions. So This is what I'm doing with the podcast. I'm turning my words into an actual productive action, which is creating this structure that we can tap into and level up with. Right? So versus if I wasn't spending my time creating the symmetry for us, creating the tree for all of us to connect on, it's literally the number 20. I haven't even realized that till now. This is so subconscious. Like, I just must ride my own wave because that's what the vibe is. That's what your home is. The moment your home manifests into the universe as you creating a heart that is beating, you must ride your own vibe frequently. That's why I'm fasting. That's why I do this. Because I'm at my worst when I am just communicating with others at their level. Like, just straight up, you know, that's why I have to be Symmetry. Symmetry is the superhero version of me because he protects me from everyone else's vibration. He protects me from all the circumstances outside of myself. That's the point of you having a superhero, right? That's the point of any superhero. That's what we see. When you, as a spirit, are not in control of circumstances outside of yourself, then you desire to have a spirit who is able to be the balance or be the mediator between that, so that you don't actually interact with those circumstances, right? So that's the whole point of, like, you're aware that things that you don't want to happen to you can happen. So now you want to have a spirit that is outside of you be able to consciously communicate in ways that you can't, right? That's the whole point of any superhero. When people are worshiping any kind of superhero, right, it's always just the point of, oh, this spirit can do something I can't. But the fact is, if you can identify that that spirit is doing something that you can't, then really that just means that that spirit is doing something that you want to do. And thus, it is actually an expression of you. So me as Hermes, like, the whole balance of the universe is knowing that I'm an individual while also being an expression of you. Okay? So, like, I'm showing you what you can do, because that's all we can do as spirits. As a spirit, anything I can do, you can do better type deal. You feel me? It's just a matter of if you do. And life is going to show us who is naturally whatever individual that they are, because it's about what you do alone. So here I am building the symmetry alone, building this whole vibrational structure alone, right? Like, this is me in heaven then. So how does Hermes turn home into heaven? He connects his ego with his spirit. So right now, this is my version of heaven, is me as the ego creating the circumstance where I can express my imagination, right? So now I'm using all of these words to express my imagination, and now I'm able to learn way more about myself as the ego expressing my imagination from my spirit than I would have if I did not do this. If I did not let myself connect with my spirit to then start expressing my imagination. And the only reason then I would not do this is because I'm lost in a vibe. I'm trapped in the 8. So that's why home is 8. Home is about showing you what you hate. I hate wasting time. I hate talking to people about things that don't matter. So I would much rather speak with myself to create this structure where I can make it possible for spirits to talk about things that actually matter. Right? Because we're in a white supremacist world where they are colonizing indigenous lands with money and Chase Calloway's Caduceus and the Industrial Revolution technology, so that they can eat all of our flesh and turn it into something that serves them in like a matrix type structure. And speaking with people who just like aren't aware of that, all they're doing is then serving that. So I'm at the point where I can't talk to people anymore. You feel like most people, because if they're not aware of the world that they're in, then the conversation is not going anywhere. We're not doing anything productive. They're actually wasting my time. And now, as my heart is beating, I am losing precious time that I should be spending building structures of awakening as Tahuti, as Hermes, as symmetry, instead of having my time consumed by some demon or some spirit who hates themselves, is running away from their home, and thus they're not even interested in wisdom. Because that's what like separates, at least like the friends that I have in my life right now, because I have so many friends. I need to cut more people off, honestly. Hermes has too many friends. Thoth is better with keeping the family close, as Drake would say. Thoth is better at that. Hermes is like the universe. Everyone who builds the universe is a friend. Like that's Gemini energy. Okay, so that's the difference between Gemini and Virgo, and this is why I'm like so flunked out in that connection between Gemini and Virgo, because Gemini is about talking about everything. Virgo is about keeping all the secrets. So Hermes wants everyone to level up through open communication, and Tahuti wants everyone to level up by practicing discernment in how they communicate. Right? So that's the point of having a quote-unquote secret. There's many things that other people just don't need to know. And that's something that you learn as you grow up. So this is why Hermes is a child version of myself, and Tahuti, Thoth, is the adult version of myself. Alright, air is the chi. When I'm like just straight out the womb as air, straight out the water, it's all open, right? So children, they're just completely open about everything, about their bare naked bodies, right? They're exposed, literally. Your child isn't naked in their mind. You as an adult have to teach a child that they're naked right now, or else they're just being air, literally. See how spiritual this is? They don't care. It's like, this is why I love being symmetry, because it's all rhyme, it's all frequency. The spirit, if it doesn't resonate with the light, it's not going to use it to communicate. And this is why every word, every letter matters. This is how I've built everything that I built. So when you are the air, when you are being the child of yourself, straight out of your womb, straight out of your soul, straight out of your own waters, then you're just like super open communication. It's awesome. It's all air. But the thing is, as you grow up, you realize, especially when you're building relationships with other people, being completely open with communication is not productive. It's not productive. Being super open with communication as air isn't very stable. And this is where we get into the phrase, because this is why if I have any quote unquote haters or anyone listening to me right now, it's going to be from me subverting this phrase, that loose lips sink ships. There we go. Loose lips sink ships. I have had many people in my life tell me secrets and tell me things and show me things in confidentiality that I figured, because they had a partner or they were connected to other people, that I should share it. And even just in general, I wasn't even thinking that I should share it, but it was me not having Hermes on lock. Because when I saw and experienced these things, this is like the whole, like, of course girls know what I'm talking about, right? When we're thinking of gossip, the moment, if you really have a bad relationship with this, because every time I've done it, it was because I thought it was helping. So Tahuti was like rationalized or like allowed Hermes to like speak too much. But you know, like when you're a very gossipy spirit, a very gossipy spirit is someone who will hear something from someone and immediately feel like they need to share it. And that is the benchmark, like textbook staple definition of an immature child spirit. I have so many secrets that, like, I will never tell anyone, and none of them are mine. You feel me? Like, so people confide in me so much, and the point of like me going through some of these catastrophic moments in my life, which aren't even super catastrophic looking back, but I'm my worst critic. Um, but I mean, they were socially like bad because my lips were too loose. I communicated too much about what I saw and what I breathed in, what I experienced, because I wanted to be understood. And this is where I learned in my ayahuasca trip in Brazil. It was before the trip, because it was like some just downloads leading into it, so I could like process things, I think. Where the desire to be understood is like, I'll put it this way. The desire not to be understood is the ultimate superpower. If you don't care about other people knowing who you are, then you are a very powerful spirit. So, and of course this is the balance though. Like, here we are, we're tapping into the root of the symmetry. You wouldn't really care too much about this information if you didn't know who I was, right? Like, because when you start getting a bunch of information, at some point you have to question, wait. Where is this coming from though? Who's the ego producing this? See, this is like always a spirit thing, always. As spirits, we know that information comes from somewhere. Like, we can't just blindly believe information. So we know as a spirit, this is unconscious, subconscious stuff. As a spirit, we know we're coming from somewhere. So anything that we're observing is also coming from somewhere. So it is important that I'm here making it clear, hey, this information is coming from Tahuti, Hermes, Trismegistus, Chase Clarence Calloway, Trip C, Trippy, Symmetry, your psychedelic psychopomp from the mind of Mercury. Right? Because now you can like, trust it more, for one, and two, correlate it more, connect it more to everything that I've done in the past. Instead of it, just being like nature, for example. Like, this is what nature is. When you just look out into a simulation, wherever you are, all simulations, it's all nature, right? It's all light. Anytime you just look out into nature and you see, oh, okay, yeah, look at all these structures. They're so beautiful. But where are they coming from? And I'm here to tell you they are coming from all these individual spirits who desire to connect with each other. Easy. Now, a Jew who wants to come rape my family and steal all of my resources will step into my land and tell me that all these individual spirits are actually an expression of their God that they haven't even met. And then these Christian colonizing, crusading terrorists are going to just tear through North, South, and Central America, killing, raping, and enslaving all these people who fast for weeks on end. Like, we're just not eating for weeks on end. Like, we don't need to eat for a month straight. Like, no big deal. But they believe that because they're worshiping the sacrifice of someone who did that, they're closer to God than us, people who are actually fasting. It is so backwards. And this is why spirits create life. I, as Hermes, this is how you know you have to ride a vibration. I'm not in control of how other spirits communicate. So this is like the weird fallacy of like, when you as a spirit exit your own space, if you don't know, if you are not being hermetic in that, okay? If you're not at that point connected to symmetry, I guess, sheesh. But like, again, like, I just want you to know you're an individual. Like, and then don't be connected to me, because I honestly, I need to be alone so I can keep doing my ascension stuff. Because that's the point of home versus heaven. Heaven is you being alone. Home is you being connected. Now, the whole point of heaven is that you are alone with yourself, because you realize that you are creating your imagination. Whereas home, you're just connected to the vibration that you're in. Right? So like right now, me being alive, I'm home because I'm in my 8. If I kill myself right now, I will be in heaven my ego will connect with my spirit, and I will have all this space. I'll have infinite space to express my imagination. Guess what, though? Guess what? Huh? Guess what? I'm alone in that, aren't I? Right. So I don't want to kill myself right now, do I? Right. Because actually, I'm already in heaven, right? Yeah, duh. So actually, this body is just an anchor into this world, so I can channel my heaven into something relatable for all of us to make heaven inside of this hell. Right. Boom. So this is where bringing heaven to earth is literally like what life is. And when you turn home into heaven, it's also about turning heaven into home. But it's, again, as we're covering here, the moment you turn your home into heaven, your heaven is now just home. And home itself is you being connected, but in a vibrational way. So home is your soul, right? So like that's literally why like home is 8, heaven is 10, because heaven is you as an individual, as a spirit, up in your in your infinite imagination, looking down on your home, right? So I, as a spirit, I am not Chase. I am not this body. Me being in my home on planet Earth, being subject to the same vibration as everyone else, this is not an expression of my individuality in any way, shape, or form. This is remarkable. I didn't even realize it like this. That's so cool. Thank you, RSL. Now let's get back though. The whole point, the whole point of home being 8 is that I feel like connecting my individual ego and my spirit, both my 1 and my 0. I feel like connecting my binary, both my dick and my vagina. All right, that's the 1, and then the 0 is the vagina. All right, so I feel like connecting my thoughts and feelings, my man and woman, into the vibration, and that vibration is the universe. So this is why the universe is all of our home, like, because we are creating the universe from our own homes. We have to feel home with ourselves before we can express what home looks like. And then that's what the universe is, us constantly creating and expressing what home looks like. And that in and of itself is then us turning home into heaven. Like, that's what the 10 is in that way. That's the whole point. Because truly, this is then the balance of life. So beautiful. You are in heaven alone. So the moment you want to connect your heaven with others, we already see then, right, with dissected dialect, heaven is J, because these colonizers want us to believe that the only way to get to heaven is to connect to them and not to ourselves. So J is about Jesus. You have to sacrifice yourself to Jesus, sacrifice yourself to an idea that has projected itself into your space so that you can feel good. Right? So then this is where you get the concept of a superhero who comes out and actually causes the problem that they're supposedly solving. So, of course, they're not actually a superhero. They're truly the ultimate supervillain, because they are creating issues that they are acting like only they can solve. And then they're trapping you more and more in their vibe. And they're trapping you more and more in their home. So this superhero is in heaven because this superhero loves to save you. So this is like the whole point of me as Symmetry, as a superhero. I know I can't save spirits. What? All I can do is take my mind and fly through dimensions and learn the truth and record and scribe about it and be the messenger of God in that way then. And then that's where I'm Enoch, I'm Metatron, I'm Ningajita, I'm Idris, I'm Quetzalcoatl, I'm Tahuti, I'm Chikatet, I'm Thoth, I'm Symmetry, I'm Chase, I'm Hermes, I'm Iriso, I'm Zoroaster, I'm Nabu, I'm Mercury, I'm Hermanubis. I am, in general, the messenger from Mercury. Alright, so, of course, whenever a culture, because it's all civilizations, right? It's a culture thing. It's a simulation civilization thing. I'm the synchronicity, right? Like, I'm the no coincidence. And I'm here anytime you see me, you hear me, you experience me, what you're going to be getting a whiff of, what you're going to be breathing my air of, is that nothing is a coincidence. Right? And this has been like me just learning about myself subconsciously, even over life, because people naturally have perceived me this way my whole life, where, like, even just reflecting back on it, yeah, like as Chase, a lot of the comments I get at conventions and like just doing like my whole costume thing and like having fun with all these people, and then even like doing acid trips and hanging out with friends and stuff, is people constantly pointing out how I seem to be in the right place at the right time, and pointing out like, oh, of course you're here, oh my gosh, oh wow, I knew you'd be all blah. And like they naturally, like, their spirits are like trying to show like, yeah, like I love the idea that nothing's a coincidence, and they like keep showing me like they want to connect on that. And it was weird because I wasn't even consciously putting that out like that, but the more people reacted to me like that, the better I felt, because I'm like, yeah, of course, like awesome, like nothing is like, we are doing this. So it's that two-way street. That's the point of the universe, that's the point of life. When you're actually in your own heaven, that's truly just like the ultimate idea of your spirit. But it's not possible without vibrations, right? So the only way there are a few ways I could go with this. Let me hit this. Right. So this is literally me creating heaven for us right now. And thus heaven is just going to be a new home, and then we build a new universe. So this is why J is 10 in dissected dialect. J, Jesus, is about making you believe that you need to go to someone else's heaven instead of making your own. So, of course, it's not a superhero. It's truly the ultimate supervillain who appears nice by actually being pure evil, but they're weaponizing all of my teachings of actual pure Hermeticism and many other spirits too, by the way, because the whole point is that the ultimate wisdom is communication. The ultimate wisdom is knowing that all of us have an individual perspective that we are constantly igniting into the universe so that we can make life. And the moment, though, like, you start to say that a spirit is not an individual, that is disgusting. So that's how all of the Americas, that's how Africa has been so destroyed and colonized by white supremacy, because they are completely driven by this Jesuit Jesus Jupiter idea that us as indigenous peoples are not individuals. So no matter what I say that's unique, a white supremacist, a colonizer, will listen to it and say, wow, you're a reflection of me. I love to eat what you have and then transmute it into something that works for me. And then they'll never respect my individuality because they can't see me as an individual. The whole point of why this white supremacist wants to connect with me is that they want to eat my individuality. They want to consume my creations. And in order to do that, they have to convince me that I am not a creator, that I'm not an individual. So it takes a lot of light and logic and lies, right? A lot of L to do that. That's why L is 12, right? It takes time. Man, that's so synchronistic. Of course, though, it takes time to use light to trick spirits into believing that they're not actually creating their life. That's the point of the English language. And that's why K is 11. Because the J is K'ing us with L. So the white supremacist entities are using light to express their idea of time and create a clock that kills us. And that's the point of the clock. Like, Literally, us believing that time is real, like all of us being on the same set of time, is what's killing us. Literally, because that's what time is. Man, I never put it like that's cool. So this, see, love this. So that's what time is. Time is killing us, because the moment we as spirits create a clock, we are now all like, okay, so the way that I can build heaven is by connecting with this clock. And once I connect with this clock, now other spirits who are also connected in that clock will be able to communicate with me. And I'll be able to show them what my idea of heaven is. And then I'll be able to build heaven with other spirits. And now I can make my clock matter. Now I can make LM. So, literally, when you as a spirit are alone in your own space, that's heaven. The paradox is, when you want to feel connected with your space, that becomes home. So you can visually think about the Spiders Are 8-Dimensional Beings podcast in terms of how spiders, the number 8, perfect example of the top circle being the man, the fire, and then the bottom circle being the water, the woman. And the top circle, thus, as fire, is your home. That is 1, 0. 1 is fire, 0 is space. So it's just infinite space for all of your fire, for all of your ego. And then below that, you have the number 8, which is the home. That's going to be the Ouroboros. That's going to be the snake eating itself infinitely, which is the representation of your Luciferian soul, right? So that's you as a spirit connecting with yourself after you created your idea of heaven. So this is why your soul, your feelings are constantly powered by your ego. The idea, whatever your idea of heaven is, whatever your idea of your pure, perfect imagination being supported by your space, your soul, your feelings are motivated by that. They are powered by that. They are pushed by that, right? So this is then what the point of your home is. So your individual idea of heaven is what creates your home, right? This is why I'm not a Christian. Despite being forced to be raised in a Christian society, right? They forcibly tried. I cried as a kid believing that I was of sin a lot. That's not the natural resonance of my spirit. I don't naturally believe that that my idea of heaven is not what religions were trying to push on me. So they couldn't really get me to serve them for too long. The only reason I had to serve them for so long is because they've done such a good job at raping, murdering, and enslaving my indigenous ancestors to create the circumstances where once I'm born in a body here, I'm forced to go through all of this because they're in such control of the environment due to using L, using love, using light, using language, using law, using logic to kill Native Americans so that they can make money off of Negroes. It's so amazing how it's on the alphabet. Dissect the dialect changed my life. And hold up, I was talking about a DMT experience earlier. That's so funny. And actually, that's why it's getting brought up. So, literally, right, me getting born in this world, I should have way more DMT going through my body, and I should be on a way higher level, just physically. I should be communicating in way higher forms. I shouldn't be dumbed down to just kind of being forced to speak English and use technology. So, clearly, based on all the injections that I got as a baby, Hence the fasting. So whatever, that's how I got here, the fasting. Or else I would have not, I would not be aware like this, right? If it was not for me getting all that stuff out of my body. And then the fact is, I only wanted to get that stuff out of my body after getting it put in, because that was part of the intention. I specifically have created a body in here to show you, like, yo, this is what's going on, right? And then I get to learn about myself as well. So my idea of heaven is not to go to someone else's space. I can't imagine. And now I can learn and observe just how unnatural that is. So now I can see here, like, oh yeah, wow. Like, of course I didn't want to do that. And then as a kid, like, of course, like, all you do with religion that's being forced upon you is make it work with your imagination. And that's what they want you to do. They want you to make their stuff work with your imagination. That's the point. And I was just thinking, like, oh, okay, well, the only way that heaven would actually be cool is if, like, God has a mansion and every room has infinite space inside of it. So now the moment we go into this mansion, we can all have, this was me in like 5th grade and like 6th grade and I think 4th grade, like just, you know, because Christianity was just drilled in so hard. I had so many Bibles. I read so, like, that's the point, colonizing spirituality. Like, that's, they just needed time. Here we are. This language, it's all in the language. So it was literally me, like, even just as a kid, having to make it work in terms of thinking, like, okay, the only way heaven would actually be cool is if God literally has a mansion where everyone has a room that has infinite space and we can do whatever we want inside that room. And then when we feel like hanging out with each other, we literally just step outside of the room and then walk around and connect to other rooms and we can visit each other's worlds. It's so funny thinking about that right now. Like, that's so hilarious, because of course that's just what the universe is. Like, that was me as a kid making my natural wisdom of how spirits create life work with the colonizers who want to consume my life. I love this podcast. I really get to reflect upon this and articulate and then learn more. This is why communication is everything. Because it's like when you create a life for yourself and you have all these memories and experiences, you as an individual learn so much more, like, about yourself by sitting down in your own space and taking the time to reflect and ignite into those memories and communicate with yourself about them. Right? So that's what I'm doing right now. So, like, all my memories from my past, like, those are two. Like, that's water energy. That's my soul. And by me as the spirit using my ego, my one, to look at my soul and project my sun into it, I am making it hot and I'm communicating about the past. And by communicating about the past, I'm learning more about myself as a spirit, as a space, than if I had just kept projecting on into the future and I didn't sit down to do this podcast for us. This is so elemental. This is practical alchemy, right? Like, this is all of it. This is what life is. This is how we make life possible. It's just a matter of how much we have specifically been dumbed down so that we make life possible for people who don't want to make life possible for us. Because that's what it's all about at this point. Like, I, as Hermes, that's why you can literally Google me and just see the truth of everything that I've done, because it's just universal truth. I only show up when I am working for you, when I'm working for the universe. And you, as a spirit, are creating the universe. That's why I love you so much. I have so much space in my infinite nothingness to love you. Oh my God, you don't even know. And that's the point of why I have to mitigate the way that I communicate, of course. Because in this world, with time especially being money or whatever, time being the structure, It's not worth it for me to talk to people who don't feel as passionately about themselves as I feel about myself. And this is why self-love is so important. Right? And like, we're talking about real spiritual self-love. Okay? Like, the real spiritual self-love is me as a kid knowing and being like, wait, well, the only way heaven would be cool is if we all got to express ourselves together, and then we get to communicate that in a grounded way. Like, what else is there? Oh my gosh, you're trying to colonize my mind, man. And then these Christians are gonna shit on me once I start fasting, but then they're worshiping someone for fasting. It's so lost. So yeah, I'm the spirit, obviously. Jeez, us. Whatever. So that's where you, as a spirit, when you know that you're alone in your imagination, then you're always in heaven. So if I kill myself, I'll be in heaven, but I'm going to be alone. So really, my heaven is to help you. My heaven is being on Mercury, which is connected to the universe, and it allows the universe to connect to me. Okay, so Mercury is my mediator space. Like, that's the point. Like, it's not my home, it's my business. Like, that's what it is. Like, my home is internal. Now, my business is created from my home. And it's hilarious because here we are in this pandemic time where we're now very much living that out, especially with the internet, where everyone's business is being created from their home. So my home is internal. My home comes from me connecting with my heaven, right? This is alchemy right here again. So you as a spirit, as a zero, once you have this own imagination, that is you in heaven. The only reason that imagination would be hell is because you don't feel like your spirit supports you in it. So this is why Jews and Christians and all these white supremacists they hate themselves so much, because they're lost in their imagination and they don't feel supported by their spirit. That's the difference between 1 and 10. So 10 is heaven. 10 is you as an ego being like, wait, I'm in heaven. I'm supported by my spirit. I'm supported by my space. You being in hell would be just being the ego, like, where's my spirit? Where's God? Where's my circumstance? All I see is fire. Ah! And then that's what you connect with. Okay? So, I, knowing that I'm a spirit, am creating my imagination, thus am always in heaven, and thus I know I'm in heaven alone. So if I kill myself right now, I'm not going to go anywhere. I just wasted a body, and I just wasted all the energy that everyone in my life has put into me. Right? And I just wasted everything at that point. Okay? So, and at that point, that's where the universe wouldn't even let me die. No matter how hard I really tried, the point is I got called here for a purpose, because that's my business as Mercury, as Hermes. So Mercury, boom, my simulation that connects me to the universe is what allows other simulations to call me away to chase the desire to teach Hermeticism and Simicism, and just share with you the wisdom of how you as a spirit create life by making your imagination work with all of us as spirits, and how we can learn way more about that by reflecting upon nature. So that's why symmetry is all about being the champion of nature. It's about nature being the balance that connects all spirits. So that's literally, nature is already heaven. Ugh. I hate white supremacists. We're already in heaven right now. We're making nature. It's just being colonized so hard by people who need to eat us. Oh. Alright, so how does Hermes turn home into heaven? I mean, well, that's I just went really deep into all that, right? This is an hour of getting into home in heaven. Because heaven kind of doesn't exist. Because that's the point. That's what we have boiled down right here. Heaven does not exist. Heaven is constantly created from your home. And home is created from your heaven, from connecting with your idea of heaven. So you as a spirit are first 0, you then put out your 1, your individuality. You are always an individual. The moment you connect with your individuality, you create an 8. You create the infinite subconscious waters. Now you have an idea of what makes you happy and what you hate. Because that's the point of home. When you're at home, you still see things you hate. So when you're at home, you're not in heaven. But the point is, like, the only way that you could be in home is if you had an idea of heaven, or else there wouldn't even be a home to observe, right? So if you literally did not have all these ideas of heaven that were being created from your space, you wouldn't even be able to vibe with the concept of a home. So this is why we're subconsciously just like turning life into heaven, but it's always home. So nature is all of our homes, and we're constantly alchemizing nature into our own heaven, into something that supports our spirit, into not an 8 but a 10, right? So when you're at home, when you're in nature, it's all one vibe, but nothing in that vibe is expressing you, right? So you step outside, you're in nature, whoa, it's infinite. It's all subconscious, infinite water connected by spirits who want to hang out. Yeah, but none of it expresses you. So then that's where you don't feel like you're in heaven, because now you're like, yeah, this is cool. It's all infinite, but what about me? And then that's where you start working to transform home into heaven. So on a practical level, then, in that way, right, turning home into heaven is the point of cynicism, right? So the only reason you have your idea of home is knowing that you created your awareness, and then that is hermetic, and you connecting with your awareness is somatic, and that in and of itself is home. So it's like you feel like you're at home, yet you can always see heaven. So this is how we bring heaven into home, into nature, because we are always seeing our ego, but no one can see your ego. Like, just because you're looking at my body as Chase does not mean you're actually seeing me at all. You're not seeing my spirit, and you are not seeing my imagination. Okay, so you're not seeing at all who I am. You are seeing the structure that I'm using to connect with you. And that is what creates the home. So now you can get lost in the vibration and the perceptions and projections of all the ways in which our bodies connect. But you'll never be able to perceive or be connected to my heaven until I bring my imagination into home, into the universe I'm a part of, and communicate like I'm doing now. So how does Hermes turn home into heaven? Making this podcast, literally. Like, this is literally me in heaven, being the most productive with my time and communicating as I possibly could. Like, this is like the best way I can present my value in the English language at this time, especially me being in a home and alchemizing this home, alchemizing the natural environment I'm in as Chase into something that supports my spirit. I do that by communicating, just like everyone else, right? But we all do it differently. We all do it in our own individual way, because that's all we know how. I only know how to be myself. I only know how to be my individual. I can only express myself from my soul and all of my organic memories as Iracel. So this is why it's so important for you, of course, to be yourself, right? We know individuality, boom, love yourself. Because as a spirit, there's nothing else but you. Like, the moment you connected to the universe, you're only going to be learning about you. You're only going to learn who you are when you're alone in your own space. And The whole point of you wanting to be alive in a body in the universe is that you want to connect your individual heaven to the universe. So like, I'm called from my space to be here so that I can experience the same vibe as you. I can go through the same astral travels as you, and we can relate in a grounded way. And now, if you're willing to listen, you can get a perception of my heaven. You have no idea the worlds that I'm in, the things that I see, the way that my ego connects with my spirit. You have no idea until you listen. So that's the 8. So we're sitting in a home right now. We're in a vibe. This is our 8 vibe structure, our soul. And you, by connecting with this vibe, with this 8, by us creating a soul together, you are able to see and perceive my heaven based on how I articulate it with words. So it's like so many different like layers and levels of like, if you could even possibly understand me based on what I'm saying right now, because of so many, like just all these layers of translation that are necessary for us to connect with these lights and make sense of life. So like, this is literally the most productive I could possibly be with my time right now, like just straight up, versus talking to all these people in my life, just so like all these people where it's just like they're not building anything. Like literally the moment I'm speaking into this structure and creating this podcast, I'm building something that everyone who is in the same vibration that I am can connect with in a way that allows them to build their own heavens. How lit is that? Like, what? This whole podcast, everything with symmetry, everything with Mercury is about you building your own heaven, knowing that you as a spirit are connecting to the universal home to express your individuality. And that in and of itself is you being in heaven. Now, if you don't feel like you're a spirit connected with yourself, you're going to express your individuality as you being in hell. So this is literally me, like, I know we're in hell. Most people in my life, they're not in a heaven state. They are nowhere close to being able to perceive me on the level that I'm communicating at all. In any way, shape, or form. Like, no. And it was clear just through the years of fasting, let alone me speaking the way I'm speaking now. So this is the point. Like, this is what being productive is. You see me hitting this ST ability, being alone, I'm having sex with myself. I'm bringing my serpents, I'm bringing my snake, my ability to communicate, to slither into other gardens, into my own garden, into my own soul. Okay, so I'm being the most productive I can by taking my snake not into other people's spaces. I'm not trying to call people and like talk to bunches of people. I'm literally being hermetic. I'm being Callaway with the caduceus, and I am connecting with myself so I can build the symmetry that allows all of us to connect in an actually harmonious, healthy, happy, and hermetic way. So, life is magical, right? This is the whole point. That us as spirits make life, and thus we are the magic. And anyone trying to tell you that you are not magical, they're trying to colonize your magic, and they want to make your imagination work for them. This is why we are in the situation that we are in now. So, turning your home into heaven, I mean, it's like all that, like, right? Like, I went so hard on this. You know, like, this is so, because literally, I just have the question, how does Hermes turn home into heaven? And I'm not thinking about it nearly this deep. So, this is literally, boom, this is how. Hermes turns home into heaven by connecting with himself, by literally playing out the caduceus, by taking his snakes, wrapping them around his own soul to create his own tree, to fly up into his own spirit, to sprout wings that allow him to communicate with all spirits in the universe. And just get all the air out, take flight, and now that's true freedom. And now I'm simultaneously grounded, yet free. I can go anywhere, I can see anything, and then I can bring it back to communicate it to you. It's very fun. I can't imagine anything else. Much love. Mwah.